past guest, Dr. Hamid Shirvani, joins us to talk about the ongoing Middle East conflict, what role Iran is playing in this situation, how the U.S. election will have an effect on it, and what the future holds. Now, let's get to business. I am your host, Tatiana Ryan. This is the Businessy Podcast, and I have with me today Dr. Hamid Shirvani, who has been on the show before, but since we are getting together with the holidays, with our family and everything, I figured this would be a good conversation to have with Dr. Shirvani about everything that is going on in the world and politics. Obviously, this is something that is going to come up around the table, so hopefully we can not have some turkey stuffing thrown at us this weekend, and maybe you'll give us some insight as to what is a smart thing to say. Hello, Dr. Shirvani.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm fine, and thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Now, I have to go and give a rundown as to your background because you've had so many different aspects in life that you have seen so many different places. You have accreditation from Princeton, Harvard, Rensselaer Polytechnic, Pratt Institute, Polytechnic of Central London. You are a world traveler, so you know a lot about everything. Also, you have been the president of California State University Stanislaus, and you were the chancellor of North Dakota University. So you've got a lot of business background.
Yeah, that it seems like it. 40 years in higher education will give you that.
And you also have a lot of political background also with being part of those institutions and seeing things, how they go in day out. And I'm going to urge my listeners that if this is your first time listening to Dr. Shirvani, we have 2 other fabulous episodes. You can go back and listen to them. But today we are talking about the Middle East, how politics in the United States is affecting that, and especially Iran, because Iran is big. Even 3 hours ago, something happened. So, Dr. Shirvani, where do you want to start?
Well, I think you beautifully opened up the conversation very articulately. I think the whole world is there are lots of issues all over the world, which we certainly don't have the time to deal with. But as far as I think the way U.S. politics is changing rapidly and radically is affecting the entire world. Certainly, United States is the most powerful country in the world and has influence all over. So any changes happens here, it reflects in Europe and all over the world. But particularly this radical change that took place because of the former administration that we had, Biden administration versus President Trump, which is a completely, as far as I'm concerned, is a very avant-garde, and non-conventional. Some people don't like the word avant-garde, but I would say non-conventional president. And opposite all these criticism that in some, quarters comes towards him and has been under attack for a long time, even his first presidency, is that I disagree with those, and I feel that I think after President Nixon, Trump is the only president that has this really true innovative approach and non-conventional approach to different things. I mean, and I think last time he relied on people that were really not bought into his vision. At least he couldn't understand it. I don't think even could understand it. And it's not a big mistake. It's a mistake that I've made. It's a mistake that many leaders make. They sometimes, a lot of people underestimate other people, but some people overestimate. This was President Trump's overestimation of a lot of these people in the first administration. And they were empty. I mean, they were just too much wrapped into bureaucratic, models. And so this time, I mean, he's one pick after other pick. There's strong people, and very strong and qualified people, and so I think it's a different. This time, much more different, and is a very strong team is being built with his vision. I think is going to have a major impact, and not only United States, all over the world. So as a result of that, some people are nervous. Europeans are nervous. Iranians are nervous. I mean, Iranians are not Iranian mullahs. I mean, fascist regime is nervous. China is nervous. Russia is nervous. I mean, yes, maybe, there are these rumors and nonsense that, Putin is this and Putin is, Putin maybe is much welcomes dealing with President Trump than Biden or than anybody does. So that's a different issue. But certainly, and then, if you look at it, Russia economic situation is disaster. Even China, with all these products and all these market, international market that they're holding inside China, economy is really bad, and people are not that happy. Except over there is not really a democracy. It's never been a real democracy. It's been a version of a 30% democracy or something like that, what I call it. So they're all nervous, and there are lots of other wars and battles all over the world in different countries. And certainly there are two major wars, one in Ukraine and one in the Middle East. So that's the thing. So I think we are going to a new era, and I think it's going to be it's not going to be just talk. It's not going to be rhetoric. It's going to be actual action. So that made people more nervous, and so I think I'm looking forward to that. I mean, that's to begin with. But now I'm going to stop here and let you, because otherwise I would kind of keep going and then it wouldn't answer your questions.
Well, no, you actually brought up a massive point with this election. It was strictly hours after President Trump was called to be the next president that Hamas actually made a phone call to President Trump, didn't they?
Well, I'm not, I can't verify that because I'm not that involved, but, I think certainly what I've heard, and is correct because it's all over, is Mahmoud Abbas, the official Palestinian guy, has contacted President Trump. But I think I'm not surprised that if any leader that is head on his shoulder will not call and be, trying to make the contact. But I think there's something very important to say, that opposite again some comments which I think is irrelevant. Former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is a superb person. I think I cannot believe that they criticize and that she doesn't have enough experience. She has 10 times more experience than a lot of people. This is a woman that is a colonel and has been on the ground, on the ground, fought. This is a woman that knows the culture of Middle East because has been there, talked to people, walked on the ground, fought on behalf of the United States. So she has a very good perspective of Middle East, all
Mhm.
over Middle East, if you want to think about it. So, and her views and perspectives, and she's very articulate, she's very thoughtful, and she has, she has a very solid perspective. So that I think is a great help. I have to say that. And particularly putting her in charge of intelligence operation, entire thing.
Mhm.
I think it's going to be enormous help to understanding of Middle East issues and the solution of it. And she's also not a warmonger.
Mhm.
That's there's a big difference. She wants to resolve issues and to the best of possible for the U.S. interest, naturally. And I don't blame her. That's what her job is.
Mhm.
I mean, in fact, I praised her and appreciate what she's doing. So that's a very excellent appointment. I can't give that up. And then this, I also wanted to say this criticism of President Trump in terms of this hiring. Of one point was very really strikes me is that about Trump's women. I mean, it's just a very interesting point that if you look at the Democratic selection of
I'm
women.
going to bring that up next. We're going to talk about that.
Okay, so let's leave that and come back to Middle East. And I think given this, again, my perception of particularly Iranian mullahs are the regime in Iran is that they're scared to hell
Mhm.
because they simply embarrass themselves,
Mhm.
and particularly the leader Khamenei. Has been for a long time. He should have got off the pot, pardon my
Mhm.
French, a long time ago. I mean, he's a disaster. He's a fanatics, and they all are. I mean, the entire this Mullah regime, they have brainwashed a lot of people. I mean, they have in 44 years they ruined the culture of that country,
Mhm.
and yes, there were all a contingent of 20% always fanatics. I mean, there are in many countries, that religious fanatics, and that they manipulate religion to earn power, to create power for themselves, or illusion of that.
Mhm.
Uh, but now, what is happening is that a lot of people have been brainwashed, not about necessarily the religion part of it, but about the kind of norms that countries should behave based on religious doctrines. So
Mhm.
that's, I think, one of the fundamental problems that we are struggling, and it is a fascist regime. They just executed more than 200 people, innocent people, because only they were, expressing their views and criticizing the regime. So it's absolute, fascist regime. But so that's inside the government, and people are starving. People are really are economically, are suffering because these sanctions are very heavy. And when sanctions, I've always said, and that sanctions do not punish, don't punish, doesn't punish the government. It
Punishes the
punishes
people.
the people,
Mhm.
because everything astronomically expensive, things don't come in, and so everything. So people are being, and the regime, the upper level of regime, the leaders are enjoying themselves because they, no matter what, they have the best of everything,
Mhm.
but the rest don't have. So this is inside, but outside, because of this sponsorship of all these groups in Yemen, in Lebanon, in Syria, in other variety of places, these terrorist groups is, then this twice attacking Israel and so forth, and not going anywhere, because certainly the Iranian army has been built up quite extensively, but is nothing in comparison to the Israeli army or what it can do. So as you're talking about a little, mountain bear fighting a whole, a little cat. It's just that there is no comparison. So they totally, the regime totally embarrassed. And as it comes out of is what I've been hearing is that even inside the regime, they're questioning him now. From inside, and probably I haven't heard what you said, what you're referring to a couple of hours ago fully. But if there is anything that he says and does, I think is out of confusion. I think his days are counting. That's my view, because I think they're scared of President Trump, and they better be. And particularly with Director Gabbard, which I have extraordinary confidence in her. I think she's going to be very serious, and she understands, and she doesn't think. And I think if this, for example, notion of Elon Musk talking to the ambassador to United Nations, and then ambassador sitting down and talking to him for hours or whatever, and then denying it, or I mean, it's just and what it tells me is that from within, or speech recently by former foreign secretary or foreign minister Zarif. That, by the way, the conversation of Zarif, was essentially apology. I mean, hey, let us work with you. Let us. So I think there is a contingent of the regime that want to do anything possible to peace with the United States, and so that's one part of it. The other part, certainly Khamenei is scared, and he should be scared. From within, there are people that want to speak to US and directly, and but they're afraid of him, and they're afraid of this other contingent. So there's a lot of things are happening over there internally. But also, even what has been the rumor out in different kind of medium is that they're really giving these leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah, literally giving them to Israel out of being scared. That, hey, take this. So they're throwing them under the truck to save themselves. So now we were bluffing. We were talking too much, but leave us alone and have them. It's over. Here is Yemen, here is Lebanon, here is Syria. Just leave us alone. But so that's the perception from. Of course, I'm not, as I say, I don't have any facts to prove that. But it's some of them. It seems very strange to me, particularly how Haniyeh was killed in Iran. I mean, that's very, very interesting. So that how much Iranians were cooperating and whatever. So you can also put it in the fact that there are so many people in Iran that want this regime gone, and they want to be friends with everybody, which is a blessing.
It seems like a lot of things are happening in real time also, especially, and a lot of people are bringing up the Kamala Harris campaign of her 100 days campaigning for presidency, and basically just running on female reproductive rights. That was basically it. You never heard her even talk about global politics or how she would deal with any of the issues as we're talking about right now in real time, because people didn't know. I mean, people kind of did know that Trump was going to be inducted. God forbid the other side of the coin were to be Kamala Harris as president. Do you think any of this stuff all of a sudden would be like, okay, here's your guys, because they knew they'd be able to walk all over her?
Well, very clearly you articulated that, first of all, she was not qualified. I mean, that was, let me backtrack something which is very important for your audience, is that if you look at history of the international, not even Middle East, but let's say foreign policy, Democrats have always been, at least from the World War II on, Democrats that I've carefully studied that. Democrats have always been not very effective in foreign policy. A lot of things happened. Wars started. The issues started. Conflict started during Democrats when they were in power. So that's the reality in that sense. But then there is another thing that happened in U.S. perhaps in the past two decades, is that Republican and Democrats are almost becoming very similar. So I mean, what is the difference? Before, you were talking about functionalists versus utopians. I mean, there was when we had a lot of intellectual ingredients, shall we say, in the politics of U.S. A lot of vision. There were utopians and there were functionalists. They were both, qualified, but they had differences in ideologies. But eventually, these ideologies dissipated and they became bureaucratic. Basically, what's good for me, what's good for my team, and not good of the. So that's why I believe that I think the last real visionary president was President Nixon, which was an unconventional. That's the reason the press didn't like him. It was not in their camp, and that's the same thing. There is this little prejudice towards President Trump by press, and that's one of the beautiful things that he uses, fake news. It is fake news because they never tell you the facts. From the opening of their mouth, they start, undermining one over the other one, and directly or indirectly throwing goodies on one basket and throwing, charcoal on the other. This is how they. I mean, it's just so. A person with the IQ of 10 can figure that out. I don't know why they don't, and so there is that. So no matter what candidate Trump was doing, they were just praising her and moving her. Look at how much PR she was getting with the main news. I mean, just incredible amount of thing. And then this notion of, as I say, this notion of being a female and being a member of the, minority or diverse background and so forth. But the question is whether she had feminine values brought into this, thing. That's sorry, this is my perspective. Because if you look at it, you can juxtapose that against so-called all the criticism of putting the pictures and saying Trump's women. That by itself is a chauvinistic type of, criticism from the intellectual groups like MSNBC and CNN and all those that at least claim to be intellectual, but I feel they're pseudo-intellectual and they're not. And so, but that's a completely wrong approach because Trump's women are actually the real feminine women. They're women that they don't have to look like a man, act like a man, and be a man. But you see what I'm saying? It goes back to theory of feminism, whether femininity is that your feminism means that men and women are equal and they have equal rights, but they're not the same. They're different. They're different. Their thinking, their approach, is different. One is woman, one is a man, but they have equal rights, and so that's what Trump believes. So there are women, the women that he's picked up, they're all feminine, not feminist, but they are. It's like the European one, you may agree, and I would share with you that we both know Macron is not maybe a great president of France, but there were other ones, Hollande or Sarkozy, but if you look at all the women that they were appointing as ministers, and look at the Trump's women, very similar, still feminine. Still dressed like a woman. Still, they're elegant. They present themselves not, they're not this Puritan, labor-oriented. I'm gonna be as strong as you are. They're much stronger in terms of their thinking system and their mentality. So it's very hard to explain that carefully, but it is, in fact, its reality is much more respectful of woman and much more congenial about respecting a woman as she is, rather than becoming a pseudo man. But if you look at the Democrats, always when they put up these women and the way they behave. Harris was a very good example of it. It's just there was no notion of femininity. There was no issue, and then that coupled by the fact that she didn't have any experience. What was her experience? She was only one-term senator. One-term senator.
Well, that's the question I want to ask you about. Do you think she was just so inexperienced that she couldn't talk about, as we're talking about places like the Middle East that have a lot of Muslim and a lot of female oppression, that she was going to be their icon now, essentially? Like, do you think she was just so that inexperienced that she couldn't even talk about it?
I think at least a major part of it was. That's true.
Yeah.
A major part of it was because, she has, for many years, she has portrayed herself to be something else, to be accepted. You see what I'm saying? So then she is a different person now. She is a person that is in that club, of the, Pelosi, you see what I mean? That group of Clinton, Pelosi, and that club. So it's just particularly from California that there is that very prevalent culture in the politics of California. But there was other aspect is that I think she was going with the party line. First of all, she didn't have much to offer about international. She didn't have experience. Second thing, I think my view is that she was told that what to do. I mean, how to go up, rather than she was not herself. I mean, even if she knew it, she was not herself. Right. But if she was, she would argue with whoever preparing her. No, I want to talk about this too. I want to talk about that too. Right. And then they were saying, oh, she failed because when they asked her, would you do different thing than Biden? Would you do it, and so forth? Well, that's you hit it right on the nail of the question that you're asking. She didn't have any other approach. Because even when she was vice president, what did she do? What did she do? What did she say? What did she, talked about? I think this was, if you want, honestly, my view is that the mistake was with Obama. Obama picking up somebody like Biden, which, he had different choices. Why Biden, for God's sake? I mean, I don't know the reason, and I probably couldn't elaborate. But then Biden picking up, even he had choices for vice president. There were not number of females, which at least intellectually and experience-wise were way more qualified than Harris. Why Harris? You see what I'm saying? So then one after the other. And then third is the why drag it? You know that you physically, you're out there, and there were a lot of embarrassing moments, as you know, walking the other way or walking that, and forgetting and et cetera, et cetera. When you get into that stage that you really don't have the energy or stamina or whatever, just get off. And he just dragged it until it was really pushed out. And then they were too late. And so they had to put her up. Then they poured money and, the entire machinery went after. But it was so revealing. It was so revealing that it was a landslide for Trump. He just didn't win with a little bit of vote, with a few, more colleges. It's just the whole thing was going tilting. And in so fast, I've never seen in many, I've been living here 50 years in this country, and I've never seen election like that like a jet. The votes came out, just didn't take very much. That by midnight, we know that, Trump won. I mean, it's just so. And they almost thought that she's going to get 100%. She's going to be the president. You see, a lot of people were thinking and talking about it. But that's how it is, because, that's inside the country. They're really disconnected. The Democratic Party is involved in this old, mumbo jumbo rhetoric that is based on labor union type mentality. That. Seniority, this, that, but what have you done? What have you done, really? I mean, from one side, you're talking about immigration issue, and, whatever President Trump in his first period instituted, that they criticized, they ripped it apart, huh? But when Biden became president, he didn't change any of them. If it was bad, why didn't you change them? If it was good, why did you criticize it? Why did you, you know what I'm saying? There's so many. And what I would really want to say in a nutshell, that there was so much hypocrisy, in the Democratic. It's just beyond the belief, the level of hypocrisy about, femininity, about women, about diversity, about the all the other minority groups, about religious groups, about whatever, from one side saying something, from the other side doing something else. And that's the reason you could see that even many Muslims in last minute, when they said, Trump, because they were passionately despised, and those who didn't endorsed Trump, they went with Jill Stein. Purposely. They knew that she's not going to get it, purposely, to make sure Trump wins. Because you see what I'm saying? That still, at least they wanted to be opposing Harris. I mean, that's what. But a lot of other people that has nothing to do with the Middle East or war or anything like that inside the country. I mean, when Trump was there, every prices were good. Everything was fine, and whatever economy, they came, prices jacked up. A gallon of milk is 3 times the price, and everything else. And they just, statistics shows our modeling. Oh, the inflation is only 2% or whatever. Come on, we don't feel 2% when we go to supermarket. Feel like inflation is 30%, 40%. It's just, it's the composition of a lot of data that they collect, and they make up these things. So I think, I'm sorry for a long-winded situation, is that I knew it, that Trump is going to win. President Trump will be the win. And I think I'm really happy, because we are going to go through a very radical major changes, which are all going to be good. I think because he has his team, he has his vision, and that is true. This notion of America first is really a true agenda. I think the foreign policy is going to be substantially changed.
Okay. Well, you brought up a really good term, warmongering, and how we have seen just within these past 4 years of things not being talked about and just the continuous escalation of things. What is your outlook right now with moving forward with Israel and Iran and Palestine, and
I really think
conflict?
that, maybe, I mean, again, people, this main so-called main media, NBC, CBS, ABC, all of this thing, CNN, they're just waiting for this poor president say one word and then they, wordsmith and blow it out of proportion. Well, Trump says in first day he's going to get, a peace. Oh, it's impossible. Yeah. No, yes. I mean, he said it and he's saying it, in a very deep emotional sense. And a good leader expresses himself in a good emotional way because that's a good leadership. That's because people connect to that leader versus be a cold, rhetorician. That's different. So yes, it may not be one day, but it could be, a couple of weeks. It would be a month, and that's way shorter than 4 years of, Biden. So I think there would be peace in Ukraine, and I think there would be. I think the Middle East issue will settle. It's going to take a longer time. Maybe a 6 months period or something. And you hit it right on the nail. Is Palestinian, is the Lebanese situation, is the Syrian, is Iraq, is Iran, it's Pakistan. It's not settled there. Afghanistan is still out there. I mean they're becoming way more fascist than Iranian regime there. And also, the question is this notion of BRICS is a very major issue that these countries of Middle East plus China plus India gotten together and they want to change the current currency for exchanging to they want to create something like euro. It's called BRIC, and well, that's not going to be good for United States, and I think it's better to just resolve the issues faster and get and not let that happens economically. And I think so. There has to be a strategy to use against the quiet Middle Eastern countries, so-called quiet, like Saudi Arabia, like Gulf countries, particularly UAE and Kuwait, and and also middle range, or what I would call it, the Middle Eastern country like Egypt and Libya, and so there is a need for more of a broader strategy to how to deal with the Middle East, and I think that's where Director Gabbard comes, because she would, opposite what they're saying, she has a very good perspective on this. And I think President himself, in his first period, has gotten really familiar with this. And one thing I think I personally have observed, and from how he approaches is what I read about, not personally, I haven't seen him from close, but what I'm saying, really carefully studying, his approach culturally is somehow an approach that a lot of Middle Eastern like it. You know what I'm saying? It's just, he walks in, he's more informal, he's more friendly, And I think short answer to your question, I think is give it a couple of months. I'm positive that he's going to resolve the issues. And
Well, just today, there has been a massive escalation between Iran and Israel, with the ICC that has issued arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense chief, and also for the Hamas leader Ibrahim al-Masri. Masri, did I say that wrong? But now the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was quoted saying he wants death sentences. So obviously there's still a lot of escalation, as we saw just the other day. American bombs dropped in Iran. So obviously it is going to take a little bit just to band-aid the recent issues.
I barely heard that when I got to start my conversation with you, so I haven't had chance to digest and really get to find out the details. But I can, based on what I said before, is that I think they're really panicked. They're really panicked, and I think he's totally lost and is embarrassed, and he doesn't know what he's doing. So he's just is like a confused leader. Otherwise, from one side, he wants to keep his image. From the other side, he's scared, and yet they're trying to kind of please perhaps certain groups and saying, they want to, let's say, they want peace with the United States, and they know that that's not going to cut it by this way. So why he's doing it, I think, is this empty call. I think is just shows, in fact, is positive, because it shows how confused they are, how scared they are, and how they have nothing in their hands. And so that I think the more closer we get to President Trump taking the office, they're going to do more embarrassing things.
Really? Now, do you think the validity of these arrest warrants are kind of like what you said? They're kind of like the sanctions. Is anybody really going to listen to them, or what's with the ICC?
I really, I really can't say anything, because I don't know, that how much,
because this is a conflict that has been going on for over a year now. Kind of started with the Hamas attack at that October 6th festival of these very innocent people that were still, some of them held captive just as of, I believe, last week.
That's, the question of Middle East has been going on for, 60, 70 years. And this notion. And I think there is a need for a very comprehensive, final solution for that. Otherwise, it's just going to continue. I think I'm optimistic that it's coming to the end, that it has to be resolved forever. And I think if there is anybody who is capable of leading this charge and doing it, is President Trump. That's what I'm saying. But whether, that I think my feeling is irrelevant. I mean, that's my, personal feeling is ICC can say anything. They don't have jurisdiction. I mean, they're not Supreme Court of the world, and the world is not a country. So yeah, that's not the. So there are a lot of these things, whether it's for anybody and anything. Yeah, even probably yes. If Putin comes to France, they may arrest him. But because
Everybody's asking that question. Why has nobody issued arrest warrants for Putin yet?
yeah, well, that's I think they did, haven't
Did
they?
they?
I think they did. I think they did, but I don't think Putin may be very careful of not.
Not to go there.
But if that, because personally they don't like Putin. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference. You may be waiting for it, but I don't think Netanyahu would have any problem of coming and getting into those trouble. One and two, I think it's irrelevant because the issue I think will be resolved. I'm optimistic that President Trump can solve that issue and once for all. There was, I think, Biden was not even didn't have what it takes. I don't think he had an understanding, or even he had really. I don't think he really cared about helping to resolve this issue.
No, he wanted to sell weapons. Basically, what he was just making sales. That's basically what he wanted to do, and it seems like.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that because I think one of the things that I'm sorry I forgot to mention is that one of the most significant thing that people have to realize, and I really believe in Trump, is that he is not care about this notion of war. He's a businessman. He wants to bring the glory of America as the superpower on economy. But the control of economy is the most, wonderful control because then people in this country benefit, people out there in other countries benefit. So why not win-win situation for both? And you want to stop immigration process. Don't create so much trouble in these countries so that people want to escape and come to this country.
Well, isn't that what he said to Kim Jong-un one time? Was that he said, "Little rocket man, don't you want to go build some condos instead," or something like that?
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, and we even didn't touch that. China has eye on Taiwan, and this one has eye on this. I mean, everybody is things, but if look at just for sake of it, if for example mullahs disappear from Iran, and it's going to be another prosperity country that they have no problem. They will not. Iranian people have no fight, nothing. In fact, there are still a large number of Jewish people live in Iran, and they have lived for many, many years, 3,000 years together. They lived with Christians many, many years together, and there are so many synagogues and churches and so forth that are still, erected up there, and there is no problem about their people using it. So people of Iran don't have, I think a lot of people in Iraq don't have a problem in America, a lot of people. So these are a layer of these fanatic fascists and so forth. So if you help people prosper, they're gone, and nobody, I think misery and poverty brings a lot of people to buy into this nonsense of these people. That's a major issue. I think Trump is going to resolve it, and I think he has a good team together. And yes, you're right. And probably instead of United States building tanks and ammunitions and making money, Chevy, Ford, Chrysler can build tons of trucks, tons of cars. Do you think people in Iran or people in Iraq or people in anywhere in Middle East, if they had a choice, if they could buy American cars, everybody would buy American cars because they are fantastic for the climate. They're fantastic for the culture. They're fantastic for this in terms of the spaciousness. And gas is cheap. They don't care if it's there 8 cylinders or 12 cylinders. So you see what I'm saying? There are these to start. But if you go, everybody was American product, not European product, American product. They prefer in that neck of the wood, in Africa, in South America, in Far East. So this is what Trump's vision, I mean, instead of move it to that arena rather than guns and arms and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that we are in a positive track, and I think all of these things. And the reason, by the way, but the reason is this heated up, these mumbo jumbo rhetoric, threats, and so forth. These are like kids that you've told them to behave, and you yelled at them, and they're not going that corner, and either crying
Mm-hmm.
or shouting, or you see what I'm saying? Is like
Mm-hmm.
last until you finally get their ears and throw them out the window.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's essentially what it means. So everybody's trying to do whatever they can before this man gets to the office, because they know that they have to shut up, because it's serious. It's action is coming. I'm serious. I mean, I'm sorry. This is the most literal way that I can define that. So I don't put much weight on any of these stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have a side note. March 17th, 2023, yes, Putin did have an arrest warrant issued to him by the ICC. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah.
But with what you were just saying, the expansion of possible American products into places like Iran and the Middle East, and these countries that, as we had talked about in our earlier podcasts about Iran, some places are a little more underdeveloped because of this dictatorship regime that's in there.
You see, you mentioned, although American money is pouring into Iraq, and that they have gone through a war, almost destroyed. Iraq was destroyed, and then is being rebuilt and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Still, if you look at the entire countries in Middle East, Iran is way, way more advanced.
Okay.
In terms of infrastructure, in terms of the variety of things. Look, what they're building may not be nothing, but they're still able to build a lot of things, including missiles, including their tanks, including submarines, and all of those things. They're just making them, and so but they're also, in terms of technology, they're very advanced. Are they advanced as Israel? No way. But European countries, no way. But in comparison, Middle Eastern countries, yes. But they also have its level of education is higher than any of those countries.
Okay.
There are more than 200 universities in Iran, and universities that at least 180 of them, 190 of them are accepted and respected by American universities. You see what I'm saying? So that people get a bachelor's degree, come here and go for master's and doctorate. So they're accepted there. And also even one of the things that is very important to say, that Iranians were the most educated and the most wealthiest group of immigrant ever to United States. I mean, this is not, I don't say that. This is the stats of, United States, official United States census tells you that's how they. So inside there is a lot of resources, but what they've been shut down by the regime. Because of the sanctions, they're suffocating, and also because of the limitation of the regime. Limitation of regime in terms of economic prosperity and so forth are not very much, I have to say. It's more social and thing. But corruption is. This is a corrupt system. So the corruption eats people's life, eats corporations' life, and then sanctions. But sanctions caused not by the United States and Europe, is by the regime. If regime stops their stupidity, and then they're trying to behave like a decent country, there is no sanction. So stop that nuclear nonsense and open up, say, hey, we are doing it for good reasons, not for bad reasons, for legitimate energy reasons and so forth. We're not building a bomb. And let it open up the whole world, come and see it, and they leave it alone and lift the sanctions and try to live with everybody and enjoy a good relationship, or at least a neutral relationship. So that's what. So if President Trump's resolved this issue with them, and then they're going to be fantastic market for American, like before, like during the Shah's period. Iran was one of the major market for United States. Look at it, for example. All the oil refineries are ages ago. They're cut and paste. Many of them are shut down because there are no parts. They need billions of dollars of money that has to come from Iran to United States, and equipment goes to Iran for building these refineries, for piers constructions, for the entire system of the telecommunication. So for automobiles, for variety of electrical appliances, for aeroplanes. The airplanes are dangerous because they're all Americans, and you see what they do? They dismantle one plane to use the parts for other planes. That's how they've been handling it, because they can't get it. You see, so that's what I'm saying is you imagine what a market would be over there for buying that. Similarly, if you come to all of these countries, you realize that the market, it is enormous market for things. And then there are a lot of service contracts. So, millions, billions of dollars of service contracts with American companies that can be benefited and bring cash to this country. So this is, I think, Trumpian approach is an economic approach to and prosperity for people, prosperity for United States. So that's what I think is a win-win situation. And that's what I think he was very eloquently presenting it. And a lot of people bought it, and a lot of people believe in him. So I hope that my only hope and prayer is that he doesn't change course. So that's what I have to say. That and I think with his team he won't. And this tariff situation, I don't think is a major issue. People are making big deal out of it, but it's not. I think it's going to be carefully done on certain products and not on everything that would impact the pockets of American taxpayers. But I agree with you that anyway, we'll see what happens.
Now, do you think the Ayatollah, as you had said, they're embarrassed about things? They might have talked a little bigger of a game. Do you think it's going to, within the next year, tone down?
I really think that they are towards the end. I mean, maybe I'm too optimistic, but I feel that they are towards the end. The revolution that started 2 years ago, women, life, freedom, that supposedly was shut down, it hasn't been shut down. It's not that you don't see people in the streets because they arrested so many people, they killed so many people. So it's just not. But things are percolating, but not only out there in the community, but within the regime. And I think so. It's an excellent way. I mean, sorry, then it's an excellent time to for the U.S. To start exerting. That look, either shape up or otherwise. And I think people certainly don't want any war with anybody. And I think those people in the regime that they have their head on their shoulder realize that they will, fail in any situation of war. So I think they want to negotiate. And as you can see, those vibrations coming. I mean, in a nutshell, I think is either there's going to be a coup d'etat from within, that's, or or somehow in a very quiet way, this man disappears. And then, as I've said, whenever is the time, whenever this happens, I think Iran would at least go to an intermediate period that would be a military regime.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's not bad at all, because the military regime, then they can make a peace with the United States. And because of the situation in Iran, they need that tight regime. There would be freedom, but there would be a tightness over directions until, because you can't go from fascism, you can't go to full democracy.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a real period of transformation. I think, and certainly I praise President Trump that he doesn't feel that the United States is world police.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't feel that way. He doesn't want to do that way, but he wants to say, if you buy into our value system, and then we are friends. If you're not buying to our value system, knock it off. That's his very clear message. So that's where it's happening. So I think from the within, this regime is rotten, and I think it's a golden opportunity right now to end this regime, and I think it will happen. I'm positive.
I am with you, with more condos and less bombs and war.
You're absolutely correct. More more economic prosperity and more economic development as a major tool, and I think a lot of countries, they want that. Certainly people want that, and we'll see what happens. I'm very optimistic.
Well, Dr. Shirvani, I am so glad that you stopped back to sit and talk about this, and hopefully give our listeners some little tidbits that they can take to their holiday tables to maybe diffuse some arguments. Hopefully we don't need any stuffing flying at people this holiday season.
My pleasure. It was delighted to be here with you.
And I am Tatiana Ryan. This is the Businessy Podcast, and we have been talking about all of the conflict in the Middle East. I will have Dr. Shirvani back on some other time. Thank you, Dr. Shirvani.